and welcome back to the Shardbreaker podcast. I am Midnight, the host of this podcast, and I am here with Darkness and Mythic.
Woo! Happy Mother's Day. Or, well, it'll be Mother's Day for anybody's watching the stream, by the way. Twitch.tv, Corrupted Midnight.
It's definitely not going to be Mother's Day when this episode actually comes out, but yes, we are recording on Mother's Day. We read chapters 21 through 24 this week because I got convinced into giving an extra chapter and then having to go through
She should have
and
given one
reorganize.
more so we could get to the next part, but whatever.
No.
And just so we're not like, oh, hey, let's read one chapter and then, all right, next part of the entire thing that's grouped into blocks.
I tried my best, okay?
It's
Anyways, so chapter 21, the epigraph starts off with a quotation, not just the journal writer's thoughts. And the quote
the nod on the playing without.
And so the quote is, "The hero of ages shall not be not a man, but a force. No nation may claim him, no woman shall keep him, and no king may slay him. He shall belong to none, not even himself." So what do you think that means, this quotation? He won't even belong to himself.
He transcends himself. Also, I would love for Spook to read these from now on. Like, it would be insane. Spook, new favorite character.
Oh gosh. What do you think, Darkness? What do you think of this quote?
Maybe he has like mental disorders, you know?
Don't we all?
You think that's what they're talking about?
Yeah, it's totally like relationship issues, identity crisis issues, you know, like attachment issues.
I see.
No, but like,
are you just projecting?
Wow.
Sometimes, but like, well, I mean, it kind of gives the ideal description of what the Lord King is seen as. So
the Lord Ruler, you mean?
Yeah,
Lord King. I like Lord King. those titles, you know.
Yeah. It's definitely describing someone who's kind of like above humanity.
Like me.
Sure. So for chapter 21, we have Kelsier's point of view. He's sitting on a canal boat reading a translation of some of the journal that Sazed gave him before he left. So in this text, the man writing the journal questions if he is really the hero of ages and that he worries that so many people depend on him. It also has mentions of Rashek and quotes that we have had in epigraphs previously. Kelsier thinks about how he has always thought of the Lord Ruler as more of a creature than a man, but the book makes him seem much more mortal. He also thinks that he changed a lot from this journal compared to the Ascension, and that it makes the story even more tragic. So do you think it's tragic how the Lord Ruler changed from pre-Ascension to post-Ascension? I know Mythic's more on the fact that it's not the same person, so they may not have.
Did he ask if it's tragic?
Well, I think he means the story's tragic as in, like, how horribly everything turned out, and he's like, it's even more tragic how horrible life is, because it sounds like the guy in the journal was almost like a good person.
Yeah.
So he's like, if only he had stayed the same, maybe things wouldn't be so fucking shit. Right?
Yeah, and if only the deep doesn't, coming for everyone.
Yeah, we'll get to more on the deepness in one of the other epigraphs later. So the canal boats, which are apparently boats that don't like kind of pull themselves, they're pulled by men who walk along roads on the side of the canals.
Cool.
Yeah, so they're pulled by men, and they begin to halt.
Ska men, obviously.
Yeah, obviously ska. Nobles wouldn't do that shit.
Yeah, why would nobles do that?
So the boats begin to halt, and Kelsier gets out of his cabin, and he uses some coins to jump over the boats and towards Yedin's boat. And Yen comes out, and he's like, "Oh, we're stopping." He's like, "Yeah, no, I've noticed. That's why I'm over here." So the canal workers are staring and pointing at him because he's using allomancy out in the daylight. And then he and Yedin get off the boat, and one of Ham's thugs, who is being like his bodyguard, salutes Kelsier. And then they're near a forest of birch trees, and he burns tin to see some men waiting out of sight. He uses allomancy to push a coin into a tree near them, which was the sign that it was okay for them to be seen. The group comes out into the open, and one of the men introduces himself as Captain Demo. So what did you think about their little, like, here's how you'll know it's us type thing?
It kind of makes sense, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was cool, but...
Yeah, pretty cool.
I feel... yeah.
What are your thoughts on Kelsier kind of showing off for all the canal boat workers?
I was thinking about that. I
think his show later is much better, but yes.
Yeah, we'll go into that later. But yeah, he's also doing a little show here for these guys. Because I think these workers are the ones who think that he's scamming Lord Renoir, I believe.
Lord Renox?
Renox, yeah.
So Kelsier notes that Demois is barely into his 20s, but seems very competent. He also notes that he probably shouldn't be surprised, since even though he wasn't like that at Demois' age, but Vin is also like very serious. I think he's almost as serious as Marsh, and she's only 16. Kelsier also thinks that the rest of the squad aren't as competent as Demois, but they're better than before. So they get to the entrance of the caves, which is just a crack in the ground. And Kelsier finds himself pausing as they remind him of the pits, which he speaks out loud to Yedin. And Yedin's kind of like, he's like super awkward about it. But he tries to prove it doesn't affect him anymore, as he is the first to climb down. And he had made sure to speak loud enough that not just Yedin, but the other people heard him be like, I can get over my fears. Because he's like, I may have weakness, but I can conquer them. And he's like, that's an important trait for them to all see.
That's cringy.
Kelsier is, I find him quite cringy, and like I'm not the biggest fan of this chapter. I don't.
Well, he has a daughter complex, so.
Yeah, it's
I mean, that wasn't as a joke. He literally has a daughter complex.
Oh no, he 100% does.
Yeah.
You know, Vin is very much his substitute daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in previous chapters, he's been like, Mare always wanted a daughter, and you're just like the two of us.
What? That's crazy. I thought y'all said something about them getting together.
Mythic did, I think, at one point. I was like, no.
I mean, I've seen some weirder shit, so...
Yeah, apparently also, one of the reasons why that conversation between him and Vin about the whole, like, oh, my wife always wanted our thing came up, was because when he had the beta readers going through the book, they also were like, oh, it seems almost like romantic, and he's like, no, that was not what I was going for, so he made it explicitly clear, like, I look at you like a daughter.
Which still, today and age, doesn't change much, but okay.
Oh, God. Anyways, we're gonna move on. So, as he climbs down into the tunnels, he remembers his time in the pits of Hathin, where a bead of atium bought him one more week of life. He notes that you can't use allomancers down there, as it would break the atium crystals if they tried to, like, pull atium using allomancy, so instead they use slaves to reach into the jagged crystal holes where their arms get all cut up, which is why his arms have all these scars on them. And once he gets to the bottom, Ham greets Kelsier, and they're in like a larger cavern with many tunnels leading off of it. For once, Ham is wearing a shirt with sleeves, which is very rare, and Kelsier tells him that he had brought over 240 men with him, which Ham's like, ooh, recruitment's picking up. And Yen then comes down as well, excited to see the caves. Once Ham and Kelsier leave Yedin, Ham frowns as he notes how Yedin's attitude towards Kelsier had changed dramatically. Kelsier says it's because he's never been a part of a successful team and that they've already gotten a rebellion larger than Yedin has seen, but Ham seems unconvinced. So what do you think about Yedin's attitude towards Kelsier? He gets like really like, oh my gosh, I'm so like, I don't know, he goes from like kind of hating Kelsier and like reluctantly working with him to being like fangirling over him. And Ham's very uncomfortable with this. What are your guys' thoughts?
Times change, and so do people.
I'm more on Ham's perspective.
Yeah. So Kelsier then says he wants to see the other entrances, and as they walk, Kelsier mentions that the Lord Ruler ignores these caves and other similar nearby caverns due to how difficult they are to attack, and apparently he's had one too many failures trying to get in and kill a bunch of rebellions off who are hiding in here. So he's just like, it's not worth it. If they come out of the caves, we'll kill them, but if they're in the caves, we'll just leave them. So they then get to one of the other entrances, and Ham explains how he always has 10 men at each entrance, and that they don't let anyone in or out without a signed letter from Ham. Kelsier tells them that to not even let him in or out without Ham's permission. And the one guy, because he tells the one guy, like, would you let me out? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, no.
I like that, the stammering.
He's like, no, you don't even let me out.
I was laughing like straight up in the middle of the night, just reading that part.
Because I mean, what do you do when it's like the leader of everything? Like, I don't know. But yeah, so and then he tells them they're good men and stuff. And when they walk away, Ham thanks Kelsier for praising the men as they'd been excited for Kelsier to arrive for a while. Kelsier says to also post men at the entrance to the tunnels leading to the exits, and that Ham should have more men walk around through the forest randomly so that the entrance to the caves aren't noticeable no matter how hard they try, they won't be able to make absolutely no tracks coming in and out. Because he's like, with this many men coming in, like, you'll be able to tell that people have been going through this forest. So just make a whole bunch of random fucking trails through the dirt that lead nowhere. So next they get to a room where men are training to fight, and Ham stops there for a moment and mentions that he's worried that they won't be good enough to fight. Kelsier mentions that they hopefully won't need to do much fighting, as the pits aren't overly protected due to the secrecy, and the infighting of the great houses should mean that they're already preoccupied. Ham is still worried about what will happen after they hand the men over to Yedin, though, and mentions he's a better bodyguard than general. Kelsier then thinks to himself that he's a better thief than a prophet, but sometimes you have to be what the job requires. There's two things here. First, are you also concerned, like Ham, about whether these guys are going to actually be, like, ready to do any fighting?
No, because I don't think they need to fight. I think it's going to fail before they even get that chance.
What do you think, Darkness?
No, I think they were all going, well, I don't know, I feel like they're all going to die regardless. So.
And then what do you think about Kelsier calling himself a prophet here?
Thinks too highly of himself.
Honestly, I don't know. This like these few chapters, like they're highlighting that little ego boost he's getting.
Mm-hmm.
They're highlighting his ego boost, but he also seems to be like not fully on board. Like it seems like he's like, this is what I have to do. But like we don't know why he thinks he has to do this. Like he's like, oh, I have to be a prophet, even though I'd be better off as just a thief.
You know, lately reading these chapters, I've been thinking he's kind of going the same like route the Lord Ruler went.
You think it like mirrors like the journal, where it's kind of like, I have to be in this position, I'm forced to like lead everything, and then you think he's going to be like the Lord Ruler and.
So does that make the Lord Ruler the deep in this situation then?
That's what.
Probably.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, that would be the metaphor.
He needs to conquer the deep.
Deepness. Instead of the darkness, you need to conquer the deepness.
Well, I mean, we all conquered darkness, so.
So Kelsier then tells Ham that Yedin is here to replace him, as Yedin needs time to actually run the army, since it'll eventually be his. Ham seems upset for a moment, but then relaxes, joking he's glad he won't have to wear his uniform anymore. As they leave the room, Ham mentions the beauty of the caves, but Kelsier thinks he can't see the beauty. He can only see the pits. Which, yeah, he's probably pretty traumatized.
Probably?
He's definitely very traumatized. I wouldn't expect him to be able to find any sort of caves beautiful.
You got some pretty cool scars, though.
Yeah, I don't know if he would consider them cool.
I mean, you know.
So Kelsier thinks back to his time at the pits, how he'd often think of not climbing back up, but he also didn't want to just be one of the other corpses down the cracks that he would keep finding. So like apparently he would just be climbing down there. There's going to be like a half-rotted corpse or a skeleton just like stuck down there that you'd have to get around, which sounds great. And so he'd been able to find ADM geodes each week for a while. ATM?
I thought it was ATM.
ATM. Yeah. Look, I have a little bit of a lisp sometimes. Leave me alone. Shut up. But one time he hadn't found one, and Mare had given him one, saying she had found two. But it had been a lie, and she had been beaten to death in front of him. That's when Kelsier had snapped and then killed many of the men guarding the place. Kelsier still finds that he isn't sure if she gave him the geode out of love or out of guilt for betraying him. So what do you think? Are you guys on the side of how she did it?
I don't think she betrayed him.
Yeah.
I don't think she betrayed him, but I mean, I feel like she feels like she's Like, I don't think she actually betrayed him, but I think that she feels bad about him being there for her. Like, she did something that, caused him to be there.
Yeah, even if she didn't straight out betray him, considering the Lord Ruler thanked her and stuff, she might still be thinking, like, did I somehow do something wrong? Did I somehow give us away? Like, I feel like I'd be second-guessing myself. So Kelsier then asks Ham what he's thinking about, and Ham asks Kelsier if there is a difference between Ska and nobles in terms of physiology, as the ministry suggests there is. Apparently,
there is.
Yeah, apparently some of the differences are that Ska are more fertile, as they have many children. I think Ham says at one point he's even seen some Ska with like 12 children or something. And they're specifically more fertile because then they can like survive all the beatings and executions and still have a fuck ton of them to like do all the labor that needs to get done. Whereas the nobles apparently are less fertile and they have a lot fewer children, so that they can't like be too powerful like compared to the Lord Ruler. And apparently that they call that the balance. Sure. And Kelsier though just explains this away as cultural, because obviously like nobles don't need to have a lot of children as they're not doing a fuck ton of labor work. And like
that's what I thought.
Yeah, like I mean, I think you could kind of relate it to how like people have a lot less children nowadays because like you don't have as much child death. Like people can survive longer, and so the nobles obviously get more nutrition. They're safer. They're not worried about like being killed by people as much. So like they wouldn't have to have as many children
at night.
Yeah. Whereas like the Ska, yeah, like your children may die of like lack of nutrition, or just because they're beaten to death, or because at some point they're raped and killed.
Thousands of them, so that you don't ever have to worry about that, right?
I like how the mist has just completely gone off the radar.
What do you mean?
Mist?
Like it's not even mentioned anymore.
It is. Oh, they mention the mist whenever anyone's outside at night. It just feels more comfortable in it now.
Yeah, and that's who's talking most of the time. So
I think it actually gets brought up a bit during the ball, where she notes that like Ellen isn't scared to be out on a balcony in the mist because he's noble. So another difference that Ham talks about is height difference, as apparently nobles are generally taller. But Kelsier just explains that away as lack of nutrition that the Ska get, because obviously if you have less nutrition, you tend not to grow as much to your full height. I don't want any short jokes here, please. I can hear Douglas already laughing.
I mean, we already know you're a Ska. We already know.
Shut up.
Okay.
So Ham then brings up allomancy, though, which apparently a Ska needs to have a noble in their lineage back sometime between 5 generations ago in order to potentially become a misting. And Ham also brings up how timid the Ska are and wonders if the nobles really are meant to be in charge, because Ska struggle to rebel and take charge. Kelsier is upset and asks Ham if he really means that, which Ham slowly says no to. So what do you think about the fact that, again, nobles are the only ones who are allowed to, the only ones who have allomancy, and also the fact that Ska tend to just be super timid and weak compared to nobles?
Well, I mean, when you beat somebody down so long for so many centuries.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too with that one.
Kind of just gets bred into your children at that point.
Yep.
Because all the rebellious ones get killed and beaten to death, so only the timid ones survive. Mm-hmm. You get killed young enough that you don't survive enough to rebel.
Maybe they're just shy. You never know.
Yeah, maybe they're just darkness. Yeah.
But yeah, did you have any more thoughts? I know we've talked about this previously, but do you have any more thoughts about the genetics of allomancy and how Ska don't ever seem to be able to have like allomancy in their genes?
Maybe it's not that they don't have allomancy, it's just that it's a different kind.
You think it's a different kind?
Nah, I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but I have a feeling like it's something to do with this in this story that not the book itself, but like the epigraphs is going to explain like that something got out where like these powers are given to a select few.
I was also
just became known as the nobles.
I was also thinking, just out of nowhere, like just with normal genetics, like you could almost kind of explain it as the fact that like because nobles all tend to have, it seems like almost at least one misting in their family at all times, like, and the fact that they kind of breed between each other and don't really breed with Ska much, like you always have at least one allomancer within 5 generations, if not way less. And so maybe just because they're they're able to breed with Allomancers more easily. That's why it's more within their genes. If you just want to talk completely like nothing related to the books, it'd be like if say
let's just eugenics this real quick, you know.
Yeah, because it's kind of just like how say if all Skaw were brown-eyed and all Nobles were blue-eyed. Yeah, if a Skaw and a Noble got together, a brown-eyed and a blue-eyed person got together, there'd be a chance of blue eyes. But generally, brown eyes is dominant. So unless you had someone with blue eyes more recently, you'd pretty much have zero chance of having a blue-eyed child.
No.
So you could almost think of it that way.
So what you're saying is that the blonde hair, blue eyes are...
I am not saying that. I'm saying recessive versus dominant genes, and eye color is the one thing I can think of.
Wow.
No, that's not what I was trying to say there.
I don't know. I think we should cancel you.
No, that's not what I was not saying they're superior in any way. I'm just saying recessive versus dominant genes.
Typing on Twitter.
And I was just saying that allomancy might be a recessive trait, and that's why you need it more frequently.
Midnight the new genocide.
No! That wasn't where I was going with that. Anyways.
As soon as you said blue eyes, I was like, fuck. Anyway.
No, I just...
You said blue eyes, I was just like, yep, we know where this is going.
No. That's not... I was just trying to think of... Anyways, we're gonna keep going. Yeah. As the week progresses...
You could chose blonde hair, too, you know?
Huh?
I said you could have chose blonde hair, too.
Gosh. Kelsier's blonde hair, blue-eyed, okay? So talk to Kelsier and Brandon Sanderson about it.
Oh, is Kelsier blonde hair and blue eyes?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, Vin Heil.
Gosh. As the week progresses, Kelsier shows off his allomancy to the men and compliments and encourages them. He notes that most of the Ska have never seen allomancy and just generally think of it as allomancy magics and don't know the differences between metals. He keeps thinking about Ham's question about Ska being inferior and tries to stop thinking about it as Ham is known to ask weird questions. He also notes that Yedin has been taking diligent notes from Ham and seems to be fitting in well at taking over the army. So next, Kelsier thinks about about the army and how he's not sure if they actually believe in the cause or that they can succeed. He asks Ham to point out a man who's been giving Ham discipline problems lately, and after going through a few options, he eventually finds a man named Bilge, who is a brawny man with a full beard. Kelsier begins to make a speech, and as he does so, he riots Bilge and his table, as it's difficult to focus on one person in such a large group. As he keeps his speech going, he eventually gets Bilge to act up. Bilge says that this is suicide and they're trapped here, unable to leave. Kelsier then insists that Bilge wants to sell them out if he wants to leave, but Bilge refutes this. And then Kelsier suggests that Bilge fight Demois. If Demois loses, Bilge can leave. Ham is upset by this, saying Bilge is one of their greatest fighters and there is no way Demois will win. So as Demois and Bilge begin to fight, Kelsier uses his allomancy to try to give Demois help. He at first just nudges Bilge's sword, but eventually makes it seem like Demois is completely stopping Bilge's sword with just a thought. Eventually, Demois wins, and Kelsier tries to force Demois to kill Bilge, but stops himself as Demois resists. So first of all, oh my god, what the fuck is that? So first of all, stop sending weird pictures in the chat while I'm trying to read off my notes.
Let's talk about it. Keep going.
So what did you guys think, first of all, of Kelsier using his allomancy to help Demois in this fight?
That was exactly what was going to happen when he started using his allomancy to create the fight in the first place.
True.
But what did you think about him deciding to do this?
I mean, hey, he got more people. He got all the people on his side. So. What
do you think, Darkness?
I think Ham needs more spotlight.
I agree. Let's give it more spotlight in the chat.
Oh, that's why you're sending it. That took me way too long to figure out.
No way, you didn't realize
I didn't realize!
That.
Wow.
I was just confused.
Oh.
Anyways, also, what did you think about the fact that Kelsier really wanted to force Demois to kill Bilge? He was, insistent for a moment there.
And we already know Kelsier's crazy, so...
I think Kelsier just metal.
Is the actual bad person? Yeah, I do too.
Well, I mean, we know that. We've known that since the beginning.
Sorry, what did you say, Darkness? You kind of got cut off and I didn't hear the end of it.
Yes, because I said we've known that he's bad from the beginning, so...
So... Kelsier then tells the room that they will have Kelsier to aid them when they go to fight the Lord Ruler, and he tells them that they have some of the magics that the Lord Ruler uses. Yedin takes this as Kelsier being able to give his powers to others and is very excited, whereas Ham is very unhappy with the situation. Ham says Kelsier lied to his entire army, but Kelsier says it's his army, not Ham's. He says it's fine that he's lied, as he still says they'll barely have to fight, and it's virtually the same thing as what he promised. Kelsier also says he wants Ham to pick out some of his most devoted warriors and bring them back to talk others into joining the rebellion. Ham says this is about Kelsier's ego, but Kelsier says sometimes they have to do things they find unpleasant. What did you think about all that? Like, Ham is super fucking pissed about this thing. What do you think
about...
You know
what? I think it's like... Like, I'm on his side, because why the fuck would Kelsier even do that shit? Like, he's painting himself as, like, how the Lord Ruler paints himself to, like, everyone else.
Yeah, and the fact that his words, like, Yen specifically, like, hears them as, like, oh, Demois now has allomancy, or, like, other people can have allomancy just because of Kelsier. Whereas he doesn't, and he kind of words it in a way that's very vague. He just says, if I'm around, like, you'll be aided. And it's just, it makes it very vague on whether, like, who was actually using the powers, and it can definitely be misinterpreted.
Yeah. And, I mean, at that point, he kind of just gave them all a death sentence.
Well, yeah. Already in a death sentence, though. I don't know. I have the opposite opinion. I think it was a great idea to do it because it makes the troops rally behind something. Because, in all honesty, hope is false anyways. When you have hope, you're pretty much just, what's the word? The saying is, fake it till you make it. You're basically faking it until you make it to that point, and then you just blame, or you just, put it all on the fact that, oh, well, I had hope that this would work. Hope and faith are pretty much just a concept that you're basically lying to yourself in order to believe something. So he just gave them all hope in the saying that, I'll be here to assist you, go out there and fight for me. I mean, but I agree also with Darkness. He's definitely seeming a lot more like he's going down the route of being like the Lord Ruler. That's why I made the comment way back when about the fact if they do end up killing the Lord Ruler, he would just take their place. He would just take his place as
It'd be a cycle.
Lord Ruler. Yeah, and I mean, then that gave me the other idea of that the Lord Ruler just takes his bones and becomes Kelsier. So.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not, as I said before, like, I'm not a fan of this chapter. I really don't like the way Kelsier handles all of this, and even the first time reading, I was, like, very kind of anti-Kelsier. I'm like, the more I read, I felt like of Kelsier, the more I was like, I don't like where he's going and, like, his personality. A lot of people are Kelsier fans. I am not a Kelsier fan.
And the thing is, like,
I'm a Spooks fan.
He's giving, like, false hope rather than hope to, like, things that could actually be real.
Yeah, like, it's not like just getting better at fighting. You're like, oh, you're doing great at fighting, as they're, like kind of okay. It's literally an impossible skill unless they just haven't snapped yet. Like...
100%.
And I get him. Like, you think that, like, giving false hope is good for, like, a war shit, but like, I feel using motivation towards something that's actually real would be even better.
Yeah, like, I feel like there's a difference between false hope and, like, or, like, hoping that you'll get, like, fake it till you make it in regards to, like, sword fighting and stuff, where, like, it's actually possible to improve.
Because fake it till you'll make it works until you realize that it's not.
Well, yeah. So does war.
That's how I see fake hope and real hope.
But so does war, though.
Exactly. So if you give them fake hope and in the middle of war and they realize that it's not going to happen, then you're kind of fucked.
Give them, Darkness, what hope would you give them to send them to their death other than false hope?
I feel like Kelsier here could have been more clear that he was helping. I feel like the best way.
I agree. I feel like but that would have defined it more as, I'm just going to basically be your crutch, instead of you all can use your own ability to go out here and help fight this war.
You have to think about the fact that what if they take it as leniency and just don't train as hard because they think they can get allomancy?
I also think one way he can...
Well, that's the thing, though. Isn't that what they want? They don't need an army that knows how to fight.
I mean, they still need to defend
an army
a little
that's
bit.
going to be able to stand. Yeah, they need an army that's going to be able to stand there and be a fodder for them.
I think also,
that's been from the start, though.
They wouldn't waste that much time like trying to train either. Then
I think also, though, like, it would have been better to be like, we have many Allomancers, not just myself. We can help you in this fight. You're not alone, and that gives them the hope of like, oh, even if I'm not the best swordsman, like I feel like that still gives you enough hope without making them think they have Allomancy on their own.
But you don't have a lot of Allomancers.
I mean, you have sub. Ham has a whole
few.
Ham has a whole group of thugs. Clubs has his whole group of like. I mean, his guys don't really do much for fighting, but like, you've got thugs, you've got soothers and stuff like that with Breeze who could help like, get rid of like excitement on the enemy side, and like there's ways they can help without just pushing and pulling.
I'm not saying that they don't have the Allomancers to do that, to back that claim up, but what I'm saying is that they're not going to see that. They're going to see the fact that there's only two Allomancers in this little group or whatever, and three now, I guess, because of the other guy. But they don't see a lot of Allomancers. That's not gonna give them that same hope.
It also works the opposite way, where they're just seeing one person, quote unquote, use Allomancy, and they're not getting it all.
And they know that, or they feel like he gave them Allomancy, meaning they will now strive to go out there and die, but they're still going to strive to go out there thinking that they have somebody behind them. And if you just said, oh yeah, my Allomancers are here to help you, the next thing that they're going to think is, well, why don't you guys just do it then? You guys are obviously you're stronger than us. Why would we have to go out there and die for your cause instead of creating the cause by? Well, that's the thing. They don't see it that way, though, and that's what he was trying to create. He's trying to create the hope that they can do it, because they do have that in their mind, saying that they should rebel against these people, that they don't like the way they're treated, but they will never rise up until they are given some form of a hope that they can rally behind. And the only way to rally behind it, sometimes it's false, but it worked. And like I said before, their plan, Kelsier and the group, well, Kelsier's plan, because I'm not going to say the whole group, but Kelsier's plan from the start was to use them as martyrs anyways. He just wanted to throw them in there anyways. He wants to create the chaos or whatever so that he can scoop in here and get his actual plan done. Whatever that actually is, because I don't think it's really what he's been telling everybody. But that's his whole goal. He has no reason for them to actually be good. He just wants them to be adequate enough that they can go out there and stand and look like a fighting force.
Yeah. Well, talking about his plans, there was a little thing at the very end of this chapter, right after that, where Kelsier thinks about how he wishes he could tell Ham everything, that there are plots behind plots and plans behind plans, and that there is always another secret. So, kind of building on what you were saying, Mythic, what do you think his plots behind plots and secrets are? Regarding that he's not even telling the crew.
Yeah, I think he's not telling the crew that he wants to become like the Lord Ruler, so that he can rule over this area, because he thinks he can do it better, I'm sure. Like every other ruler before. You think, oh, if I take out this ruler, I'll be better than that ruler, but it never works out that way. But I think that's what his real goal is in the end, and telling them would just he would have to listen to them basically say, well, why would you do that? We could just not do that. And, no, he doesn't want to be talked down from it.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts there, Darkness, on Darkness?
What are your farts?
I mean, I agree. It's a pretty solid theory, and I mean, like, obviously his like revenge it runs way deeper than most people see.
Mm-hmm.
I did like to find out later, when talking about Kelsier in general, when Vin's talking about Kelsier, to I don't remember who, but
I think it was to Ham.
And he makes a comment that Kelsier has always disliked the nobles, and it only got stronger.
Oh no, that was to Doxson. That was Doxson she was talking to at that point.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of a different conversation.
I definitely think that there had to have been something that basically made him hate nobles, and I think a great one would be that, like, he actually knew maybe his father enough and like.
Well, he definitely
see,
knew his
issues.
father because remember they had said that Kelsier and Marsh had grown up thinking they were nobles because because their mom was pretending to be a noblewoman, a lower class noblewoman, and then she got found out at one point and murdered, and that's when Marsh snapped.
Who murdered her?
Probably the dad or an obligator.
The dad, I would assume. I mean, just with the nobility hatred he has, I would assume the dad might have been the one that did it.
Yeah, like the fact that his dad turned. I mean, even the dad just sent an obligator after her. Like the fact that the dad would have turned on her probably would have upset him either way.
Well, I mean, what was Marsh hates something too, and I don't remember what
Marsh hates the ministry. That's why I was wondering if it's an
ministry.
obligator. He's like super, super obsessed with the ministry, whereas Kelsier's obsessed with the nobility.
Yeah, so it could be an obligator he sent, and then they both blame different sides of that same coin.
Yeah, Marsh might have blamed like the like society the Lord Ruler created through the ministry and the obligators, where he might have thought like, oh, our dad wouldn't have done this if it wasn't like you had to, and Kelsier might have been like, no, our dad betrayed our mom.
Yeah, and he would have done this because he's a noble, and nobles
yeah.
terrible. I do like the whole thing. Like later, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember. Was it Dox who's talking to her about the fact that? Oh, we'll get to it.
Yeah, that was Doxson, and then Ham also talks to her about Kelsier later on.
Yeah, but I was talking more about nobility as a whole.
Yeah, I believe it was mostly Doxson that talks about it. Yeah. But anyways, chapter 22. Get another epigraph, obviously. So this was the one about the deepness, which we kind of alluded to earlier. So it says, at first, there was those who didn't think the deepness was a serious danger, at least not to them. However, it brought with it a blight that I have seen infect nearly every part of the land. Armies are useless before it. Great cities are laid low by its power. Crops fail and the land dies. This is the thing I fight. This is the monster I must defeat. I fear that I have taken too long. Already, so much destruction has occurred that I fear for mankind's survival. Is this truly the end of the world, as many of the philosophers predict? So, do you guys have any new thoughts about what the deepness is?
The Lord Ruler.
Well, remember, he was supposed to defeat this.
Yep, but like I said before, this history is written by the victors. So, who I think going on my theory that the other person is actually the now Lord Ruler, and it's not the person that Yeah, you thought it was
Rashek.
Rashek, yeah. Going on that thought, maybe Rashek is actually the deepness. Whatever it may be. Mainly the reason I see it to be like that possibly is because the way the world is now, as in like where they're at, is so dingy and like gray basically, and not green and not nice, and maybe that's because it won, and it's trying to change the narrative enough to say, oh no, this is how it always is. That's why certain people, Kelsier, shouldn't know about green grass.
Which you found out later that Sazed also knows about.
Well, yeah, but Sazed is knowledgeable as shit, so.
Yeah.
His knowledge actually makes sense to me.
Yes, it does. I mean, because I think you've said before that, like, you're not sure how Kelsier knows all that, but the thing is, we don't know how long he's known Sazed. Like, it's possible Sazed told him and Mare about all the previous world.
The way he says it, it's not like I could see that if he came in and he was like, I was told a while ago that actually there's green grass and blah blah blah. No, it's like he almost knows it, like almost distinctively knows it. Where like Vin gets told it and she's like, I don't know about that, like she's hesitant on it. He just seems to like know, like 100% fact he knows this is true.
I don't know if I'm tripping, but I thought we knew where he got it from.
Well, he has a picture that Mare had of a drawing of like what a flower looked like. We don't know where she got that from or how she knew about things either. Technically. So we know where that picture came from, but we don't know how her and Kelsier knew about things technically.
Wait, maybe could Mare have been like what's the guy's name again? Sazed? Is that what
Sazed?
Yeah, like Sazed. Yeah, could she have been like that maybe?
You think she might have? I think they mentioned that
she told him?
No, I think because Mare's a Tin Eye. She's a half Ska, half noble as well. Yeah, she was a Tin Eye, which is how they met in the
I don't
underworld.
remember that being a thing, but
Yes, it was mentioned when they talk about them getting caught at the Lord Ruler's palace. They mentioned that's why she was with him, and also I believe that's I think it's implied that's how they met is through the underground world and her being a Tin Eye and stuff like that.
And what's a tin eye again?
That's the same thing as Spook. That you just use tin. That's all you have. You're a tin misting.
But what does tin
What's
do?
the power?
Yeah.
The power is like the extra perceptions, like being able to see farther and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like all the senses being enhanced.
Yeah, because that completely wiped the knife from my
Yeah,
head.
right. I was like, I don't remember which one it was. And I didn't want to pull up my spreadsheet of fucking powers.
So for this chapter, we start with Vin reading through the translated pages of the Lord's Ruler Journal, just like Kelsier had been previously. The journal entry she's going through discusses the landscape of the potential Lord Ruler, because I know you guys don't really believe this is the Lord Ruler, or at least Mythic doesn't. So the Lord Ruler's homeland, as well as the Terrace homeland. It also mentions abilities that the Terrace people have, such as storing up strength to use later. They become frail at night and muscular the next day. It's mentioned that this somehow has to do with their metal earrings and bracelets. It's noted that a man named Branches wants to negotiate with Rashek to find out how this ability works. So try not to think about what Say says later. What were your kind of first thoughts when you read this?
Oh God, this car is right next to me, and I should not be hitting them because I'm listening to a book.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Because I drive and listen.
I got so scared for a second.
I was like, what the fuck?
What's happening?
You said what are my thoughts? Those were my thoughts.
I see.
I honestly don't remember it mainly because like the other thought comes into head about what he actually says later. So.
Did you have any initial thoughts, Darkness?
Well, I mean, at that point, I figured it was like some fucking storage shit for like strength, obviously. I didn't think it was like my mind went to back where like Say's had to use like the mind metal or whatever it's called to
Metal blades, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. To get from that place to the other place, which I'm giving great descriptions, but um and I was like, okay, so it's definitely like something storage wise, and I mean, I just hope that it would get covered.
It gets covered a little bit here. She goes to talk to Sayes after this. So as she reads, Vin determines that she does not like to read, and it's not as practical as dagger skills or allomancy. But Sage insists she practices, so she goes to a hidden corner where she can sound out the words without being overheard. Vin also determines that the Lord Ruler is much more whiny than any god has a right to be, and she wishes she had never found the book, which I found really funny. It's like, god damn, this guy whines so much, shut up. Spook then shows up, mentioning Doxson and also struggling to speak normally as he mentions having to store more weapons here. So she gets up to go off to see Doxson, but before she does, Spook hands her a lace pink and white handkerchief. Vin is confused but takes it. And I think Spook runs off, and Vin then goes to. This is
why I like Spook so much.
Gosh. So Vin then goes to a servant to ask where Doxson is, and finds out he's in a meeting with Renault. She'd been told that she had to keep up appearances, so she reluctantly goes to find Sayst instead while she waits for Doxson to be done with his meeting. And she thinks that they could have asked her to join them, but she thinks most of the crew, even if unintentionally, still think of her as a child and don't include her as much as she wishes they would. So as Vin finds Sayst in the library...
Out of curiosity, did we ever get a description of what Spook looks like? I don't remember.
I think we did, but I mean, I don't remember
I can
exactly what it looked like.
Quickly see if I can get a picture of Spook. So anyways, so Vin then goes to a servant to ask where Doxson is. Oh wait, I already read that. As Vin finds Sayst in the library, she notes that he isn't wearing spectacles and wonders why he had for that short period of time. Sayst mentions that Kelsier had asked that Sayst give each member of the crew a copy of the translation to read over, and then goes on to talk about how the book is a keeper's dream. Goes on about how the Terrace land was once green and fertile, which Vin thinks is weird. That green would be considered beautiful. She's like, it'd be like plants being blue or purple, which there are some. So Vin, get good.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, wow.
So Vin then asks about the mentions of the Keeper's powers, which Sayes doesn't want to discuss as he doesn't like people knowing about them. Vin, however, dramatically says that she may have nothing to tell Kelsier about if she can't properly interpret the book without knowing about the Terrace people, as they're a large part of the logbook. He reluctantly begins to tell Vin of keepers who use an ability called feruchemy. So they don't use allomancy, they use feruchemy, which is a different power.
Which is cool as shit.
Yes.
Sounds like metal in French or some shit, right?
Possibly. It grants them the ability to store physical attributes. So it sounds like they don't have any mental attributes. He says specifically physical attributes. Although they do store memories, so I don't know. He says physical attributes. he calls them physical attributes in metal to be used later, but they don't burn the metal like allomancers. However, like allomancers, different metals store different things. This is why Terrace people wear so much metal jewelry, which had become part of their culture for even non-keepers. So I think I'd shown you some pictures previously where Sage has 1 million earrings, and he also wears 1 million rings, and he has bracelets, and he's gonna show Vin in a second that he has a bunch of metal bracers on his upper arms under his sleeves too. And so yeah, he's just got a fuck ton of metal on his person.
What came to my mind right now is what if they wear braces?
What if they were what?
Braces.
What if they wore braces?
Oh gosh.
Metal on their teeth.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Sage also reveals, the metal bracers on his upper arms. Sage briefly discusses how the Lord Ruler at one point wanted to make sure the Terrace people couldn't even touch metal, and that metal was to only be worn by nobles, which Finn finds odd since, allomancy, so they wouldn't want to wear metal. And then Sage goes on to say that not only does the Lord Ruler fear feruchemists, but he also hates them and all Terracemen. Sage suspects his hatred has... based on his reading of the logbook, he suspects this hatred has something to do with Rashek, the leader of the Pac-Men in the journal. Sage also mentions how the one religion the Keepers don't know anything about is their own, as the reason why the Keepers were formed was because the Lord Ruler was trying to purge all of the Terracemen. So what did you think about the fact like that? He's like, we were less than Scott. We were to be purged from existence. And then they formed the Keepers out of the few feruchemists they could find.
Knowledge is power.
My mind was at that moment on a completely different note. I was thinking more about the earring that Vin has. I was like, what if that shit has some stored shit in it?
Oh, you think maybe someone could access something inside that?
Yeah. Because why would she have an earring?
Because her parents.
Well, her mom pierced her with it.
Exactly.
So Sage then points at a copper bracer and says that copper stores memories and thoughts. He says that every keeper stores everything, but each keeper also has a specialty, and Sage's specialty is religion, which we kind of know already. Sage mentions that the logbook
he doesn't know about his own religion.
Well, because they didn't have any access to it. You can't store something you don't know about.
Can he say he's a master of it if he doesn't have it?
Why doesn't he just make his own religion? No.
So Sage mentions that the logbook has more information so far than anything the Keepers knew, and he thinks one day they'll be able to find out more about it. And I also wanted to make a note here. So they're called obviously copper mines instead of metal. So, and a website that you guys are never allowed to go to because it has all the spoilers ever and is fan-run Cosmere wiki is called the Copper Mine, and that is why, because it stores all the information of the books we're reading. Would you say? Let me go to it. Hold on. No, you cannot go to the Copper Mine.
I've seen it in the Google search back when I was using to look for, what is it? The first book we read?
Shardbreaker?
I was looking for stuff. Yeah, I saw it there's a name on the thing, but I've never clicked on links.
Yes, so it's called the Copper Mine as a reference to feruchemists and how they store knowledge and memories and thoughts in their copper mines. I always thought that was a really cool thing. They named it that.
People come up with some great shit.
Just a really cute note, and it has literally every connection. And it has all the stuff about Hoyd and where he appears in every book.
You're just hyping it up, and we can't go see
No, sorry, yeah, okay, I'll stop talking about it.
I might be a little distracted for the next few minutes.
No, you are not looking at the Copper Mine.
The Copper Mine? Yeah.
No. You guys are banned from the Copper Mine.
How would you know, though, if I went to the Copper Mine?
Yeah, right?
I'll be very upset with you.
But how would you know?
You'll never find out.
Yes, I will. You'll say something at some point that you shouldn't know. I'll be able to tell.
Or what if I say it as a theory and it comes true, and then
you'll leak something about some connection between a book you've never read, and then I'll be like, what the fuck?
Oh.
Suddenly our theories are gonna be 100%.
Oh
yeah, exactly. We're just gonna be 100% right all the time now. And it's gonna be weird, and you'll never know why.
So Vin then pushes for more information on keepers, but Sazed does not want to share more. However, Vin does realize that one thing that can be stored is sight, which is why he wore glasses previously. So we know 3 things that can be stored then is strength, thoughts, and sight. Those are 3 things that you can store in metal for feruchemists.
Sure, that'll help somebody who's blind.
And so Mythic for a whole other... You now gotta create a whole other chart of what does each metal do for feruchemy.
Oh, yep, I'm gonna have to... let me go open my
so I will tell you that feruchemy uses all the same metals as allomancy, so anything that allomancy uses, feruchemy will also use.
So, gold, electrum...
all your theories. All the ones we know, though, there's brass, zinc, steel, iron.
Pewter.
Yep.
I wonder what the 11th metal would do.
You don't know?
Nothing. The 11th metal does nothing. I'm 100% sure this is another one of those false hope situations where he keeps saying it's gonna do something and it's never gonna do anything.
It's like a painted rock.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's giving himself the false hope though, or if he knows it himself that it does nothing.
Wait,
but I feel like it's gonna do nothing.
Did he not manipulate that bar at some point? I don't remember.
He says he's been trying to figure it out on his own, but he hasn't been able to.
He's just hiding chunks of it.
Which is why, when I was reading this book for the first time, I was always like, obviously it has to do something when you're with someone else then, right? If you're just trying it off on your own somewhere, it's probably like how soothing, you need to be with another person, or copper or bronze or something. It's not obviously iron or steel if you can't do anything by yourself with it.
I wonder how fast it burns.
How fast what?
The metal burns. That specific one.
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't know that. He would know that. That is something he would know.
No, you would know. You know this.
Don't remember. I don't remember the times of any of the metals. I think all I remember is that pewter is the fastest burning. Or actually, I think atium's the fastest burning. Pewter's the fastest burning of the original 8. The basic 8 metals. That's honestly, I don't pay attention to how fast something burns. So Vin then moves on to ask Sazed about the handkerchief, which Sazed says that nobles give it to women that they are looking to seriously court. Vin is shocked, and when Sazed mentioned that Spook stares at her a lot in meetings, she says she just thought he was a creep.
Yeah. I wonder why. Isn't that what most women think of when men are, trying to court them? Oh, he's just creepy.
Mm-hmm. Not really. It depends if they like him back or not. Obviously, she has no interest in Spook, so yeah, she's like, he's a fucking creep. But if it was Ellen staring at her, she'd be like, oh, damn.
Huh. You know how weird it is? It doesn't flip like that? I wonder why. When a woman likes a man and he doesn't like her back, she doesn't go, man, this woman's a fucking creep.
I don't know. I feel like if I saw some woman staring at me, I'd be like, damn, she's a fucking creep. What is she doing?
If a woman walked up to you and gave you a handkerchief, you would think she was a creep?
I mean, if there was that societal expectation, I'd be like, oh, that's weird. We don't know each other. Please
don't. You think she's a creep?
Kind of, yeah. I'd be like, are you stalking me? Why are you giving this to a random person when it's supposed to be serious courting?
First off, Spooks is not a random person.
I mean, I don't think she interacts with him that much. Based on her reaction to this.
She's literally spoken to him so many times.
How many times has she spoken to him?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go back to the whole book
him,
now.
Less than 5 times.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been 2 or 3 times.
It's been what, over 6 months?
I think she spoke to him when they first met. She spoke to him once when he was creepily watching over her while she was unconscious, and then she's spoken to him now.
Didn't she speak to? Oh, I guess that was when they first met, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there could be times off page that we don't know about, but that's all we've seen on page. And she also spends most of her time in Felice, and Spook spends most of his time in Luthadel, so I don't think she interacts with him very often.
I wonder why.
Anyways, so...
Why's everybody mean to Spooks? He's such a good person.
So it's also mentioned that
Vin has the best power, too.
Yeah, Sage also says, you're close in age. And she's like, no, he's so much younger than me. He's like, you're 16. She's like, I turned 17 last week. Yeah, apparently Spook is 15.
Whoa. 17. Oh, no.
I know.
She's almost legal.
To be fair, 17 and 15 feels like a big age gap at that age.
Okay, but Ellen?
Yeah, Ellen's like 21, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, Ellen's young as fuck, man. Super young Ellen.
But yeah, no, honestly though, when I was 17, I would never think of dating a 15-year-old boy. Although I also would never think of dating a 21-year-old.
I was gonna say.
You would also not think of dating in general, so...
No, I dated when I was 17.
I don't know what you're talking about, you asexual ass.
Just because I'm asexual doesn't mean I didn't date. I'm not aromantic.
You don't think about dating. That's the farthest thing from your mind.
Honestly, it was the farthest thing from my mind. I was the one who got asked out. I wasn't the one asking people out.
No, because you cute as fuck.
I was cuter in high school.
You're still cute as fuck. Look at the guy you were with. You think you could have landed that fucking hot shot?
That's true. He's pretty fucking adorable.
Adorable? That man is hot.
I don't like using words like hot. Hot feels weird.
Mucho caliente.
Anyways, so she then says that she doesn't have time for his attentions, and then cringes as she remembers Sage is a eunuch. So she's like, I don't have time for romance right now. And then
Sage I love that part.
Yeah, and he's like, it was very like, oh no. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, it's probably for the best. It's hard to really have a family when you work in the underground anyway. So he's like, I don't miss it as well because like I've never been able to feel that sort of stuff or do anything like that.
Wait,
are we talking about you or
no? Fucking Sazed.
That sounded like you. That sounded like you were projecting in there.
Sazed then mentions that both Ham and Yedin have families that they have to stay away from for long periods of time to keep them safe. So yeah, Ham has a wife and kids. Apparently so does Yedin. Were you guys expecting that?
No, I completely thought that they were gonna devote their life to their roles, you know?
Well, considering how little they can do, the fact that their families aren't involved, kind of because Kelsier had a wife, but she was involved, whereas Ham just stays away from his wife and family 3/4 of the year.
I think Stace is queer.
I mean, he could be.
I mean, he has nothing there, so...
Again, he could be asexual, but not aromantic. You can still feel love.
No, but
you know... He feels anything, unless it's for religion.
Yeah, Sage is romantically attracted to religions.
Exactly.
Oh no! What if he's sexually attracted to religions?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how he would get that kink off, but hey.
What if he's just reciting that shit and he's like, never mind. Anyway,
no, he's romantically attracted, not sexually.
Sure.
Anyways, so he then says Breeze is too self-motivated for her family, so Breeze apparently isn't with anyone. Breeze is single. And he thinks Doxson
wonder why.
And then he says he thinks Doxson has something painful in his past regarding romance. And as far as Doxson isn't dating or hasn't dated. Vin also learns that Dox was a plantation ska, and when Sazed asks if she even talks to her friends, she was shocked to realize she has friends. She's like, oh shit, right there, I have friends. What the fuck?
I don't remember what Breeze looks like, and I feel like I've gone through this so many times.
You've gone through this a million times. You want me to send you another picture?
Oh, it's right there. I see it. I can see why I keep forgetting.
What do you mean? Breeze is great.
He looks garbage. Anyway.
What?
It's a joke.
Can't believe you.
I don't know. He don't look special.
Wow. He's very well dressed, very well put together. That's his whole thing, is that he's all about, looking good. He's the most, noble of the group. He's like, let me bring me my wine, let me have my cane and my fancy clothing.
Kiss my hand.
Yeah, basically. You know? So Vin then goes to find Doxson, who apologizes for not sending for her to join him in Renault. He said he wasn't even sure that she had been home, and he's like, I should have asked. Vin notes that Doxson seems like a kind man and that his organizational skills are what keeps the crew together, even if he has no allomancy. She's like, basically, if Doxson wasn't here, everything would fall apart. We'd be fucked.
Yeah. Doxson is the goat.
Yeah, I like Doxson. Doxson's a good guy.
I hate Doxson.
Wow.
How dare you?
He's the betrayer.
Oh, you think... Oh, right, I forgot you thought Doxson was the betrayer.
I don't think Dox is the betrayer. I think Marsh is the betrayer.
Ooh.
I think Doxson and Marsh wanted to be together, and they both betrayed them.
So Vin...
Kelsier's homophobic.
I mean, I think they're all in. I think all of them are going to betray Kelsier specifically, but maybe not the plan totally.
So Vin then asks him about living on a plantation, Dockson mentions that they likely got fed more regularly but probably worked harder than most Skaa in the city. He also states that among plantation lords, his was probably one of the more lenient ones. He says that there was an event that caused him to leave, and when Vin asks, he explains that the Lord took the girl he loved and had sex with her before killing her, as is required. The plantation Skaa had been encouraging Dockson and the girl, which her name was Carrion, and Carrion's relationship, but her death broke them, and Dockson left soon after that. Vin is horrified and questions how Dockson could say he was one of the better plantation lords. Dockson explains that he rarely beat people to death and only purged the elderly when the population got out of control. Apparently, he had also been in Luthadel recently, and Vin had likely seen him. Vin is horrified that they'd let someone like that attend, and Dockson is disturbed by Vin's views of the nobles. He says all nobles are like that, and that they don't see Skaa as people. Vin tries to say that not all nobles use the whorehouses here, but Dockson insists they do, and she's being duped by the nobles. He asks why she thinks he doesn't complain when Kelsier goes around killing nobles. He then says she should ask some of the men she dances with if they've slept with Skaa women, and that likely they all have at least once. All Vin can think is that Ellen couldn't have done that. So what do you think about Dockson's explanations there, and Vin's kind of being very lenient on the nobles?
I hope that Dockson, that was Dockson talking, right?
Yes.
Was like over exaggerating, but I also think Vin needs to like chill out on trusting the nobles so much.
Yeah, she's kind of gotten kind of complacent with everything. What do you think, Mythic?
What do I think about what?
Dockson's thoughts on the nobles versus kind of how Vin sees them.
I mean, I think Vin sees them in the correct lighting, because everybody can be bad. So I think Dockson sees them more due to his own trauma. Can't look past his own trauma, just like Kelsier, but not as severe.
I think this is also the conversation you were talking about earlier. I don't think I really noted it as too important, but I believe this is also the conversation where he says that Kelsier hated nobles more afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, afterwards, yeah. I did like later with, like, because Dockson here is like portraying all nobles as evil, and they'll do all of this stuff, and then like I had this feeling, I remember reading when I was reading that, or not reading, but listening to that part, that she was gonna go in there and be like, I'm gonna confront Aaron, right? That's his name?
Ellen.
Ellen, that's it. Ellen. I'm gonna go confront Ellen or whatever about it. I knew that was coming. Like, I just knew it.
Yeah. I mean, Vin can't not confront him at some point.
Yeah, like, go in there and be like, I didn't know how blatantly she was gonna do it, but like, definitely thought she was gonna go in there and just be like, tell me if you actually do this, kind of idea.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I had a feeling that, and I had a feeling like it was gonna be some stupid ass thing of like, I've never done it, maybe once, but only because of societal pressures or some stupid shit, Well, I mean, it was worse what he says.
Yeah, we'll get to what exactly happened with him.
Yeah, but like, I felt like her thought was a lot better, in my opinion. When we get to it here in a little bit, but I don't back what Ellen says about how many of the nobles do it, because I feel like it would be higher than what he says. But
I think we should get into that this next chapter. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that more then. So let's get into chapter 23 with the epigraph, which is, I sleep but a few hours each night. We must press forward, traveling as much as we can each day. But when I finally lie down, I find sleep elusive. The same thoughts that trouble me during the day are only compounded by the stillness of night. And above it all, I hear the thumping sounds from above, the pulsings from the mountains, drawing me closer with each beat. So what did you think about this? These I think we've had one other epigraph talk about these like pulsings drawing him towards the mountains.
Right. I blanked for a second. But I think it's the Ash Mountains, no? Or whatever they're called.
Well, there isn't mention of ash mounts in these journals. He's saying that the I think like snow-covered mountains is where he's going.
Yeah, but like, what if they're not like ash mounts yet?
I mean, that's very possible. Yeah, he says he can feel the thumping and pulsings from the mountains drawing him closer. I Mythic, you got any thoughts?
On the epigraph? No, not really.
Okay.
I'm still in that whole waiting for somebody to get backstabbed.
Fair. So we start this chapter with Finn at a ball. She is sitting with Lady Kliss's group and is attending with Lord Milan Davenplu. Kliss is apparently an excellent source of gossip.
Davin what?
Davenplu.
Oh, you said poo.
No, Plu. So Kliss is apparently an excellent source of gossip and is speaking on the issues between houses Tekiel and Gefenry that Kelsier had caused. Finn mentions that she had danced with one of the men previously, and Milan's only response is, "Was he a good dancer?" And Finn just says,
Nope.
"No, not very." She's like, "I can't believe that's his only statement about that." So she notes that her conversation with Doxon dominates her thoughts, and she wonders how she could have been taken in by their splendor so easily. She wonders how many men Milan and Tiden had killed by sleeping with them. She notes that House Venture had been bunkering down for the House War, and thus Elend had been attending less balls. She hadn't interacted with him in a while and was worried how she'd react if she did.
I know she tended to balls.
Wow. So the men at the table, Milan, Tiden...
Okay, that wasn't meant to be nasty. I thought she wasn't going to the balls anymore.
No, she has been. Since her side mostly healed, she's been going frequently. So the men at the table, Milan, Tiden, and Ren mentioned playing a game. Ren mentioned playing a game called Sheldry, which apparently Milan hadn't shown up for before. Milan insists he will this time and calls over an obligator. Finn is on edge as the obligator approaches, but Milan just makes his promise to play Sheldry tomorrow, handing over some coins to the obligator, and then the obligator leaves. Finn notes that the obligators must know everything that ever happens in court, and how well thought out it was that the Lord Ruler did to implement this. Nothing happens if an obligator didn't sign off on it. What did you think about that? The fact that, like, marriages, all these little promises, like, everything has to be, like, business deals, everything is, like, signed by an obligator.
That's probably the cultural thing that Kelsier was... I think it was Kelsier was talking about.
It's I think, kind of what you're talking about, but it's also just, like, as Vin kind of notes here, like, a way for the Lord Ruler to kind of, like, keep tabs on everyone.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts, Mythic?
Very controlling behavior.
So Vin then gets up to leave, but Kliss stops her by speaking of how many thieving crews have been killed lately. Vin worries for a moment about clubs, because his shop is nearby, and Kliss mentions that one of the thieving crews nearby had been taken out. It is also implied that Tiden had gotten scammed by some Ska, which Vin notes for later to tell Kelsier. And then she then turns to leave and sees Shan Lariel there, who implies that Milan having to escort Vin was a downgrade before asking to speak to Vin alone. Which, of course she does. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry your other dance partner got sick. It's too bad you had to take this girl." So once alone, Shan criticizes Vin for not keeping close to Ellen lately. She insults Vin a bit, using allomancy as well, and then tells Vin that she wants to know what books Ellen is reading, and not just to trust the covers. Shan then leaves, and Vin finds herself angry, but knows that she needs to be part of the plans of the nobility to get information. So what are your thoughts on the fact that Shan, like, is trying to get, like, information on these books?
Sounds like she thinks that her ex-husband is...
Ex-fiance,
I guess?
Yeah,
whatever. I mean, hey, coming from the person who can't even remember their own fiance.
I can remember! I was not used to the word fiance yet.
Mm-hmm. But I think she thinks he's up to something and is attempting to figure it out. Probably for somebody like maybe her or his dad or something.
So you think she's maybe doing it for, like, Straff Venture?
Yeah, whatever that dickhead's name is.
What do you think, Darkness?
I think she's being painted as evil when she's really not.
You think she's actually, like, gonna do something good somehow?
So, you mean like what was the girl from the last book?
Oh,
right,
Katara?
Right. No.
What? No.
From
what was
Avatar?
her name?
So I was like, we have we met a Katara?
I don't remember if her name was Katara. It was something... Karada,
No.
That's what it was.
That's not who I was thinking.
Okay, that's the name I was thinking of.
I was thinking farther back, apparently. Actually, no, think about it. Because I was thinking of Blushweaver.
Oh, you were thinking... Yeah, because the last book was Elantris, so I was thinking Katara.
Katara.
Katara...
Karada.
Karada!
Oh, wow.
I'm fucking up the name so bad. It's fine. Since when is Darkness the one who remembers names and I don't?
Yo,
yeah, right?
I just remembered.
What?
I was gonna name Kelsier Calcium.
Oh my god, Calcium.
Calcium intake.
Oh my gosh. So we then get a description of Keep Hasting, which is a tall, round, central keep with 6 towers around it, connected by wall-top walkways. All 7 towers had winding stained glass around them. The ballroom was at the top of the central tower. So Vin then asks a servant, or actually before I go on, do you guys have any thoughts about how this looks compared to our other 2 keeps that we've had description of? Do you have a favorite so far?
I stopped caring.
Yeah, same.
I still like
I really did.
the second one the best. The one with like the ceiling stained glass that created fancy patterns over everyone.
I like the first one.
You like the first
one?
What
was the first one? Darkness. Darkness. What was the first one?
It was the one with the. Wasn't it the one with the like stained glass that had the stories on it on the side?
Yeah. I mean, they technically all have the stories on them, but it was one that was like 7 feet tall or something, so they had like these huge.
Yeah.
That was Ellen's place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's trauma there.
Gracious.
There's definitely trauma there. And the second one I believe was Shanilario's place, and then this one is Keep Hasting, and Hasting is one of Ellen's philosopher friends.
Hazing?
Hasting.
Hazing.
So Vin then asks a servant to fetch Sazed for her before she notices Ellen chatting with a group of young noblemen. She finds herself standing and walking over to Ellen. One of the men with him notices her and taps Ellen on the shoulder before the men leave him alone to talk to her. Oh gosh, I've accidentally just scrolled. Oh god. Where'd my notes go? Okay, here we go. So, Vin asks why he's been avoiding her, and Ellen lies and says he hadn't seen her here. He tries to say he wasn't avoiding her, and Vin ends up sniffling and tearing up. Which I was just like shocked. I'm like, why are you crying out of nowhere? What the fuck? Didn't seem like her to me.
No, stop. Because right there and right then, I was like, what the fuck is this bitch doing?
Right?
Why is she doing this right now? And I was like, there's no way she's reacting like this. She has to be getting manipulated, right? Like in my head, I was like, did she like forget to bring like that fucking resistant one or whatever?
Coffer?
Yeah. Because why is she so strongly like...
I know, I was shocked by this too. I'm like, this doesn't seem like her, but okay. So Ellen takes her out to the balcony to get her some fresh air, and he continues trying to explain that he didn't think she needed him around as she's been fitting in, but then interrupts him asking if he'd slept with ska women. He's just like in the middle of trying to like be like, I'm so sorry, and she's like, did you sleep with ska women?
like the future ex-girlfriend she is.
Ellen hesitates, and Vin accuses him of being a monster as she wipes away her tears with her handkerchief, which is Spook's handkerchief that he gave her, which I'm surprised she kept on her, honestly. Ellen then explains...
He's not a creep.
Ellen then explains the situation, and that his father had decided that when Ellen was 13, he needed to become a man, and had sent him to...
Right.
Yeah, he had sent him to sleep with a ska woman. Ellen hadn't known...
Years old.
Yeah, I was like, god damn. And Ellen hadn't known at the time that she would be killed. He also insists that he hasn't slept with any other ska women since. So what did you think of the fact that, like, at the age of 13, Ellen's dad is like, here's a fucking ska woman, fuck her, and nothing else. He's just like, do it. You need to be a man.
I just grinned at the hesitation that you had in your voice.
Shut up.
That shit was hilarious to me. You're like, if I whisper, it's gonna make it better.
Yeah, like, you know, sex is a total bad thing, apparently.
Shut up. I'm an awkward person.
You're not the right person for what?
I'm an awkward person.
You're awkward? Since when?
Uh-huh. But yeah, what did you think about the whole...
13 too, right? During
Huh?
I said, I feel like you'd be awkward at 13 as well.
I've always been awkward.
No, I meant, okay.
Oh, I see.
I feel like doing the deed, you'd be pretty awkward.
Yeah. What did you think about that whole situation, Mythic, that his dad put him through?
I hope his dad found a really good whore that knew what she was doing, because that would be a very bad sight to see 2 virgins in one room forced to do something.
Yeah, imagine being forced into a room with like some random ska whore by your father. Like, he knows what's happening. He's like, go be with this
Well, I mean,
this whore.
First off, parents,
and then
all parents know, okay?
No, but like it's specifically like your first time, and your dad's like, go in there and do it, and then afterwards you see her get murdered, or you at least hear that she's been murdered, and you're like I feel like that'd be so traumatizing.
Nah.
Okay.
Not at all. He's totally fine. No trauma in his life whatsoever. His dad's the best, you know. Dad's totally not a douchebag.
I like his dad. He's cool.
Uh-huh.
I bet you do. I bet you do, Darkness.
So Vin...
He reminds you of your dad, too?
Oh, God.
I have no dad.
Exactly.
So Vin then asks how many noblemen sleep with Ska women, and Ellen estimates about a third, but he isn't sure as he doesn't associate with men like that. Ellen then asks about the handkerchief, and Vin says a suitor gave it to her, but not the one who told her all noblemen in Luthadel slept with Ska women. She also mentions that she was told noble women didn't even consider sleeping with Ska cheating, and Ellen says that isn't true. He's like, I dare you to like find one that wouldn't be upset by her husband cheating, no matter whether it's Ska or noble.
Yeah, I agree with him on that part. I mean, after all, nicing the knot on the playing without.
Mm-hmm. So Vin then brings up Ellen's father, and Ellen states that his father will sleep with any woman, Ska or noble. He then says someone needs to stop them, and Vin thinks that he's like Kelsier and Doxson, a man who cares. Do you think that's true? Do you think Ellen cares?
Riding the Ryle on the Rids to the right.
Gosh. What do you think, Darkness?
Nothingness. I'm empty-headed. No, but like, I don't know. It makes me nervous because like, I wanna believe that he cares, but also like he's a noble. So.
I mean, wasing the was of brightness, nip the having of wishing of this.
We're gonna just keep going. Vin then...
did we get past the part where she like spills everything?
No, we're about to get there.
We're getting there.
Yeah. So Vin then asks again why Ellen was avoiding her, and he explains that he doesn't really like who she's been spending time with. Vin states that unlike him, she doesn't get to pick and choose who she spends time with since she's a lower noblewoman. Vin thinks about how she's starting to think she can change things as well. Then Vin brings up the Ska. She says that she had hidden a runaway Ska who had left because a woman he loved had been killed by the lord of the plantation he was from. She also says they are just as intelligent as anyone else and angry about how they are treated. She even brings up the underground movement and thieving crews. Vin then keeps herself from speaking even more. So, yeah, what were your thoughts on, like, she's just going on about shit here? I felt like it was a lot.
When she started the first fucking sentence, I was like, bitch, please shut the fuck up. You're giving everything away. Chelsea is gonna hate you.
And
you know?
Yeah.
I don't understand what's happening. Like, is she getting mind controlled? Like,
she's just like blurting shit out.
I got so angry. I got so upset. And like, I'm sorry, if I'm Kelsey, I'm decapitating that bitch.
What did you think, Mythic?
Think of Kelsier?
No, think of Vince spilling all this random shit to Ellen.
Oh, I mean, that's what you do when you love somebody.
You don't just spill out. What?
You babble.
That's.
She seems very emotionally charged. She's been crying. She's been thinking apparently for a while about like what Doxson said about like all these. Ellen's evil. He's probably sleeping with a whole bunch of fucking Ska women, like getting them killed.
When you like somebody so much, and somebody comes around and says, "Oh no, they did all these horrible things," you don't want to believe it. Of course, in your head, you're going to go down a spiral, and then you're going to make assumptions, and you want those assumptions to not be correct, but you kind of also think they're correct, so you kind of have to. It comes to a head at some point, you know.
She's gone to like a couple of balls with him.
I bet she had, but he's ignored her for a lot of them lately, though.
Yeah, apparently because he didn't like her new friends.
So how the fuck is she just gonna be like, you know what, you ignored me, I fell harder, let me go spill all my secrets.
First off, Darkness, that's how life works, apparently.
No.
She's also a teenage girl. She's a teenage girl, Darkness.
That's how life
works. I knew teenage girls like that in high school.
Focus on your drama.
Yeah, the more the guy avoids her, the more she likes him.
That was very much a thing that I knew girls in high school would do.
The ones that actually, like you and come up to you are seen as creeps.
No.
Bullshit. Look at Spooks.
Mythic, I think you're projecting.
You're right. I feel for Spooks. I mean, that
you keep getting an S to the end of his name.
Much.
It's just Spook, not Spooks.
Spooks. I feel for Spooks.
Okay.
I like Spooks better.
Okay.
I hope Spooks better.
What's the dialect that Spook says again?
Eastern street slang.
I was gonna say Western.
Eastern street slang. Got it.
So Ellen then has to go and meet with some people and tells her to keep his handkerchief because he'd given that to her as well because apparently she'd put so much makeup on the one that Spook had given her, and he says keep it as he wants to give her suitor some competition even though he's a little late after being foolish. Finn then sees Ellen meet up with Leckel and Hastingman before she meets up with Sazed. So what were your thoughts on the fact that now Ellen has also given her a handkerchief?
I thought that part I really liked.
You liked that Ellen gave her a handkerchief?
Yeah, because fuck the other guy. Also, I'm expecting like I know she probably doesn't die, but I really want her to die with him, so.
Who, Van and Ellen?
Hey guys.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's Kelsier Fortnite. You didn't know about that? I don't know if I've ever brought that up to you, but yeah, Brandon partner with Fortnite. They have a Kelsier
in
Fortnite. Yeah, that's actually Kelsier. It is Mistcloak.
I'm not reading this anymore.
Everyone jokingly calls him Kelsier Fortnite. What?
I'm not reading this anymore. I've given up.
You know about it?
I've lost respect.
You've lost respect? I think it's because he has young boys who probably play it or something. No? Is that not, Jesus? Yeah, come over here and say it. You can tell him. I'll probably end up cutting part of this part out anyways.
Okay, so this is what happens. Brandon Sanderson is best friends with the current head of Epic Games.
Ooh, cool.
Because Brandon Sanderson wrote Epic Games' first lore. So the first game that Epic Games did was Infinity Sword all the way back in early iPhone days. So Brandon Sanderson was hired to do the entire lore for that series. That's like games, I think. So then, out of that, he became best friends with the guy who ended up being the current head of games. So then he was like, "Hey, can you add me to Fortnite once Fortnite is like at its peak?" And that's what Kelsier.
And now we have Kelsier Fortnite.
Does it actually say Kelsier though in the Fortnite?
I don't know what they call him in Fortnite. I don't know if they call him Kelsier.
They do call him Kelsier.
Oh, apparently they do call him Kelsier, the survivor of Hathen.
What?
in
cool.
Fortnite.
That's cool.
But yeah.
I just looked up Mistborn gifs and these all come up and I wanted Spooks, but it didn't come up, so here's a great representation though of the metal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that's not perfect. Like,
that's
I want to see it go up.
Anyway, so so she meets up with Sazed, and she tells Sazed who Ellen left with, but Sazed is distracted by her ruined makeup and the extra handkerchief. He's like, how the fuck did you end up with another handkerchief?
Because Ellen loves me. Duh.
So Vin then asks for permission to use Allomancy to follow them, and Sazed reluctantly agrees. Vin eagerly goes back out onto the balcony and flies off into the mist towards one of the towers, moving up until she hears Elend inside. Elend is telling his group that they should invite Vin to speak with them, and he instantly tells his group of 4 other people, like, oh yeah, she helped like this Ska runaway on her plantation, and like she'll be great. Yeah. Which I don't know if like he should be like going around telling people about that.
I mean, I feel like these people are pretty trustworthy.
So yeah, the other men though don't really want Vin there. They're like, no, we don't want this random person in our group where we talk about like the things that are wrong with the Lord Ruler. Thank you. They then move on to speak about the book they've been reading, which I think one of the guys is like, I didn't finish it. It was too thick of a book. Which there's a huge meme about Elend and his thick books. He's got some thick books.
I bet he has some thick boots.
Books.
I heard boobs.
I did too.
I accidentally said boots, not boobs. I meant
I heard
books.
Boobs.
No, not what I said.
Boobs.
So then a guy named Jastes also seems excited about how they could potentially change things since they're both heirs and second heirs to their houses. and they speak about providing a unified front so they could have more control, since the Lord Ruler basically has his obligators controlling everything, even their marriages. So even if the nobles are a lot more free than the Ska and they live way better lives, they're still very much under control. Like, you can't even marry, apparently, someone without an obligator approving it, so they're just like, yeah. We want more power, and less being controlled. And then suddenly Vin hears Kelsier call out to her from where he'd apparently also been listening to the conversation from above. He goes down to where she is and tells her that he'd been keeping an eye on the meetings since Vin had told him about them. He says they're just working on alliances as the next generation, and they don't actually want to overthrow the Lord Ruler. When Vin seems upset, he laughs and says he promises not to kill them, and that maybe they can even use them. So at least he's finally promised not to kill Elend, unlike before, where he's like, "Oh, it'd be great to get him like executed." You happy to hear he's no longer going to kill Elend?
No. I feel like Daddy needs to kill the love interest of his daughter.
Gosh.
He'll become the best dad, you know?
So Kelsier then asks about her makeup, which Vin avoids, and then says that he needs to head off. Vin says she needs to go back inside to meet up with Sazed, and when Kelsier asks about the use of allomancy, she insists she had permission. That's the end of that.
She
did. Yeah.
Kelsier
is like, you're secretly using allomancy. She's like, no, I had permission. I got permission. I'm good. So yeah, that was the end of that chapter. And then we're on our final chapter, chapter 24. And for this epigraph, it says, "In the end, I must trust in myself. I have seen men who have beaten from themselves the ability to recognize truth and goodness, and I do not think I am one of them. I can still see the tears in a young child's eyes and feel pain at his suffering. If I ever lose this, then I will know that I've passed beyond hope and redemption." So we know if this is definitely the Lord Ruler, which I know you guys are iffy on, then obviously he has moved past this, as he definitely no longer cares if children are crying. Do you have any thoughts on this epigraph?
I mean, is that true though? I mean, we haven't seen him anywhere near a child that's crying.
He lets people kill children all the time.
Yes, but we haven't seen him near them.
I guess.
And also, do we know it's his will?
Well, I think he allows it. Like, I'm pretty sure he would stop them if
Okay, but what if it's a Sussurbrand situation?
Maybe. That would be. I think you've brought that up once before.
No, but I'm assuming it's not because of the way you're reacting. So you know.
But you never know.
No, I get it.
No, it could be.
Stop trying to put ideas in my mind.
Why should it actually be the case?
I'm gonna be so upset.
So we have Vin and Sazed arriving at Clubs' shop. Kelsier's already there, sitting with Ham, Clubs, and Spook. Vin eagerly greets Ham, and Ham... What the fuck is this that you're sending? Oh, him signing books.
The fucking books are so big.
It doesn't look that big of a book.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are Lost Metal signings. Looks like. His Stormlight books are bigger than those. Anyways. So they get there, and Vin eagerly greets Ham, and Ham jokes that she's a proper young lady now, which Vin insists she isn't. They joke around a bit, and Vin notes that Spook is trying not to look at her, and knows she'll have to deal with that at some point.
Yeah, hopefully some point before he decides to murder you.
Dockson then comes downstairs and is upset to learn that Ham ripped off the sleeves of his uniform as it costs money. And as Breeze arrives, Kelsier says he needs Dockson to get him a warehouse to conduct meetings, which Dockson agrees to before seeing Vin's dress. Which he's very upset by the fact that it's kind of like scuffed and torn from her using her allomancy. Because he's like, oh yeah, we just need to cut back on her dress budget. What the fuck have you done with your dress? Kelsier tells Dockson that Vin is back on Mistborn duty, and Breeze tells her not to fight 3 Inquisitors at once again. And
awesome.
So, yeah. As Breeze sits down, Ham says he's saved up some questions of his specifically for Breeze, and Breeze says he's dying of anticipation. He then gets Spook to fetch him a drink, and Spook starts speaking to him in Eastern street slang once he comes back with it, which Breeze just says he'll...
not of the playing without.
Which Breeze just says he'll ignore, as he has no idea what Spook said. Kelsier and Spook then speak back and forth between the rest of the men, or before the rest of the men, including Clubs and Breeze, joke around with random slang comments, and then laugh when Breeze looks completely confused.
What I've gotten so far, at least what I think, could be what they were saying in this. Spook says, it's not nice to play with people like that. Kelsier says, don't worry. What he does to you, he's not worth your concern. And then fucking Breeze over here with the whole, what are you two babbling about? And then something about being clever, that they push them around. And then something, and then my favorite one that I have so far of Ham is something about being insecure. I think he worries that he's not clever.
Or is that ever wasing the wish of having the have? Rating the wish of wasing the not. Is that the one you're talking about?
One second, which one? The one that I was talking about at the end, at the end, for where Ham says is ever wasing the wishing of having the have, writing the wish of wasing the not.
And then Doxson just makes up something. Doxson says he doesn't actually know what he's saying.
Oh, I didn't even put Doxson in there.
Yeah, well, Doxson specifically says he has no idea what he says, and Spook says it didn't mean anything.
That was the funny part to me.
Yeah, he's like, he didn't actually, because Doxson was just going along with it, because Breeze is so exasperated, he turns to Doxson, and Doxson just, like, makes up shit, and Breeze is like, what the fuck? And then Spook's like, yeah, no, it didn't mean anything. He said words, but they didn't mean anything.
All I could picture in that moment was that Breeze is darkness.
I would be Breeze in that situation for sure.
Darkness too, though. When Darkness sent that message in the thing that said, "I'm gonna rip a page," I was like,
"Oh, is that the page you're talking about?"
Yeah.
I wasn't 100% sure what page you were talking about.
Oh man, I was like, "Yep, I could see it."
I wasn't sure if you were talking about like the Vin and Ellen scene where Vin's just like blabbing stuff or something.
No.
No, he could deal with that, but then this came in and he was like, nah.
So Vin then...
That's why I want to talk in more Eastern street slang.
Yeah.
So it gave me a headache. I didn't know what the fuck they were saying.
I just kind of skip over it mainly.
You gotta decipher it.
No.
So Vin then thinks back about how when she first joined the crew, she had stood in the dark watching them drink like this, and now she was participating. She felt content. Kelsier then asks Vin about the balls, and Vin mentions that House Tekiel is struggling and may have to sell off their keep. Kelsier also mentions how some of the other houses have started killing each other secretly at night. He also says the balls will likely keep going up until the end as people try to speak to allies and keep an eye on enemies. Kelsier then asks Ham to go talk to his military contacts tomorrow, and Vin asks to go with Ham. She wants to spend time with someone who is specialized in pewter, and Kelsier agrees, although he doesn't understand why she wants to spend time with Ham. Because Kelsier, with some of the metals, is just like, I don't understand why knowing much about this metal matters. I just iron and steel and then just be strong. Whereas Vin actually is like, no, knowing actual stuff about each of the metals is important.
Oh yeah, especially when it comes to later, I'm sure, when, she becomes the greatest Allomancer that's ever been.
And she becomes queen.
Yeah, because, that's already been prophesized.
So Doxson then says he doesn't like all the fuss about Kelsier and the 11th metal, and Kelsier says they can discuss it later, before turning to speak to Breeze. He wants Breeze to take over from Yeden in a while so that Yeden can speak to contacts back in Luthadel. Breeze is not very happy about this, but agrees that he could probably do it, if need be. And Finn briefly wonders that if Reen had known a group like this, if things would have been different for him and for them. Do you think things might have been different if Reen had grown up in a more trusting group?
Repeat the question?
Do you think that Reen would have been different if he had grown up in like a crew like this?
Probably, because I don't know. It's because they seem. What's his name again? I'm gonna struggle to say his name, even if it's that short.
Reen?
Yeah. That's the brother, right?
Yeah, that's her brother. Like she keeps hearing in her head.
Call him the brother.
Okay.
You can't remember Reen and Vin? God.
Vin I can remember. Because
Reen's not that hard.
But I mean,
like, come on, deepness.
No, I think he would still be the same. I think it's more like familial trauma. Yeah.
Okay. So the next day, Ham and Vin go out to see the Luthadel garrison. Vin notes that she still feels normal in street clothes, and she also notes that she still has the habits of how to walk through the streets like a normal ska and be invisible and not look at others. As she walks, she notes that being a street urchin is just another disguise and wonders who she really is. What do you think about Vin's kind of identity crisis? About who she is?
Does she know who she is, though?
Well, I mean, I feel like she's currently finding out who she is.
Yeah, I don't think she actually knows who she is. So.
All right. So as they walk, Vin asks if Ham's family lives here, and Ham says they live in a town near Luthadel, but even Kelsier doesn't know where. He only gets to see them for a few months a year, but it keeps them safe in case he got caught and killed. Since because he's a Misting, his children have noble blood in them, and they would be sought after and killed if he were found. The reason he uses his powers and risks being caught is because thugs are the most sought after Mistings, and it pays well. He states his family lives comfortably, and after this job he wants to move far from the central dominance where his family can live like nobility and not worry. Vin asks why Kelsier didn't leave, and Ham says that there was always another job, and he wonders if Kelsier and Mare would have been living happily or if they wouldn't have been content without this life. Vin again wonders what would happen if Kelsier tried to take the throne, and if he could be as bad as the Lord Ruler. They also discuss Kelsier making himself seem almost holy, and how Ham, Breeze, and Doxson are going to try to rein him in a bit. So what do you think about that?
That's gonna fail. Superbly fail.
What do you think, Dirkness?
About what part?
About the fact that Ham, Breeze, and Doxson are going to try and rein in Kelsier's kind of like all holy as thou attitude, and like being like sort of being over the top.
That's not gonna happen. He's crazy, but like I don't know what they expect, but it's definitely not gonna happen.
Alright. Ham then briefly talks about how the garrison aren't well liked and that he knows them pretty well, but wouldn't hesitate to fight them just like they wouldn't hesitate to fight friends or family, as they're paid to do. Ham had recruited the few he had thought would be receptive, but the rest had picked their life. Ham then says to Vin that some of the men let him spar with them, and that she should use bronze to see when he's fighting, or when he's flaring pewter when he's fighting. He states that when to use pewter and when to flare pewter are important, as the smart soldier is the one that lasts the longest. He also states that pewter doesn't give you skill, and you need to make sure you have the skills to fight and not just rely on pewter itself. What are your thoughts on his kind of little description of how and when to use pewter there? We obviously don't get to actually see him use it here, but...
I wish we did.
Mm-hmm.
I was really hoping we get to listen to him fight.
Right, but things happen, which we'll discuss in a second. But what are your thoughts on like how to be strategic with pewter?
I mean, I feel like you should be strategic with everything you're using. But
yeah. Especially if you're a Mistborn.
Yeah, and especially because pewter again burns like one of the fastest ones, and also seems to have like.
How fast? Do you think tin burns fast?
It doesn't seem to, because Kelsier has it on a lot, and Vin seems to have it on a lot. I think tin's one of the slower burning metals.
So my question, because he's a tin eye, because Spook's a tin eye.
Mm-hmm.
What if Spook's lost, like, I don't know, sight, right? Like, what if he lost his sight, and then could you use it to like basically be able to hear, like kind of like when somebody
you still can use it to hear. It enhances all your senses. You feel like
so, but that's what I'm saying. But would it in like because like when you lose a
I see
a thing, everything heightens already. So would it heighten again?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think it heightens. I think the modifier would be like, say, a person with all their senses has like like 100% in everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then say if you lose your vision, you end up with like 110 or 125% with your other senses compared to a normal person. And then tin, say, does like a 2 times multiplier. So if you had normal of the 1 for everything, you'd have 2 instead. But if you have like the 1.25, you'd have done like 2.5. I'd assume.
Well, let's
like
hope Spooks never loses any of his sight or any of the other senses.
Get all his skin burned off or something.
Oh no.
He's gonna become a quadriplegic.
Well, I mean, I don't know how his tin would help him there, but okay.
You can still speak. Someone's coming. Roll, wheelbarrow me away.
Kind of like the guy in fucking what's the fucking, god damn it, what was that popular as fuck show? Game of Thrones. It'd be like Game of Thrones, where he's just wheeled around all the time.
So Ham then approaches the garrison and asks for a man named Surtees, which the guard says now isn't a good time. However, Surtees comes out and asks to speak with Ham alone, away from his niece, which was Ham's kind of little cover-up for Vin there. Ham agrees, and Vin uses tin to listen in on their conversation. Surtees speaks about how they need men like him to join, as a rebellion nearby is attacking the Holstep garrison. Ham and Vin are both shocked by this. Ham tells Sturdy he'll come back after he's dropped off his niece. Vin is horrified at the thought that their army is exposed and that they are fighting the garrison outright instead of doing a quick and quiet siege into Luthadel. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Ham's about to die.
Not Ham.
What do you think about their army? Like, this is their rebellion. The rebellion's attacking somewhere for some reason.
Wonder who told them to do so.
I wonder who made them feel so full of themselves.
I wonder.
Don't even get me started on this shit, bro.
That's all I was thinking about when Mythic was defending the whole Kelsier thing. I'm just like, yeah, but the end of chapter 24.
I said it with that knowledge in mind.
Yep. So.
I mean, I still don't think he did anything wrong.
Okay.
I think they're defending what they need to defend, and it'll work out in the end.
Yeah, so my questions here,
Yep.
now that the chapters are over, is what do you think is going to happen with this fight between the garrison and the rebellion? Do you think who do you think is going to win? Are they both going to lose people, or
Rebellion's obviously going to win, because they're so strong with Allomancy in their back, right?
Yeah, they just got Allomancy, like every single one of them.
Exactly. As long as Kelsier's in the rebellion, they have Allomancy.
do you think we're going to lose any important characters? Like, cause apparently Ham's going. Yedin is out there somewhere. Do you think we're going to lose either of them? Do you think anyone else is going to go out to try and figure this out along with Ham?
I think Ham dies. Or gets severely injured. I also think Spooks is going to get severely injured.
You think Spook's going to go out there?
Yep. I think the Vin's going to go out there and Spook's going to follow.
Do you think clubs would let Spook follow?
I don't know. I don't think Spooks care as much. I think he loves her that much.
Damn.
He wants to go save her. Plus, hey, on his side here, if he does actually go out and saves her, maybe she'll see him in a better light.
Maybe. You think there's gonna be like a big love triangle thing happening?
No, not at all. I think Spooks is gonna be standing outside a tent listening to I can't remember the other guy's name, and then having their sexy time.
You need a tent.
I literally just said tent because I thought a tent. I don't know. Outside his room. I don't know. I just didn't expect him to be to go to his house with Vin, I guess, with his father being an asshole.
I'm just like, where would they have a tent at?
I don't know, Tent City? Maybe he lives out in the fucking homeless place.
Is that a place?
Maybe his dad kicked him out. Where do the Ska live?
Ska live in what's called tenements, which are like these really cramped, I think almost like apartment kind of buildings.
I think he's gonna be the third wheel, is all I'm saying.
I see.
With his tin eye, he's gonna be able to listen to all of this stuff go on.
Yeah. What do you think's gonna happen to our rebellion though, because of this fight? Like, do you think we're gonna lose most of them? Do you think they're gonna win and we're gonna only lose a few? Do you think it's gonna be completely wiped out?
I mean, I don't remember exactly, but did they said it was the whole rebellion?
They just said that there is a rebellion attacking this garrison.
Yeah, I thought it was a group of rebels were attacking the garrison.
I don't think they say a specific number. We don't know how many it is.
I think Kelsier sent them, and I think it's with the one dude that he was trying to kill in the first place. But
he says an army of Ska rebels appeared.
But he also Ham before this stated that with a couple coin shots and a couple brutes, they're pretty much an army. So.
He said a mini army.
Well, still an army.
Yeah, so we have no idea how big the group is that went, because they have what I think they said 7,000 out there currently. Yeah. So we don't know if it's a group of 1,000 or if it's half or if it's the full amount. We have no idea.
I like how that sounded like.
Go ahead, Darkness.
That sounded like some Pokemon shit. What group of Scott has appeared?
A group of Scott has appeared.
You walk into the tall grass. Suddenly, a group of Ska.
I use you, Mistborn.
Damn, that's a legendary. You can't do that.
Sure, I can. Also, that's not my legendary. My legendary is Lord Ruler. I caught him with a Master Ball.
The Lord Ruler is Mewtwo, and the Mistborns are like Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno.
I don't know.
There's so many things wrong with that.
Arceus? I think the Lord Ruler is more Arceus, but sure.
I was just using like the basic.
Well, if Arceus is the Lord Ruler, then the Mistborn and all the other Misties are going to be Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so what do you think? Besides the garrison stuff, what do you think else is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen with this?
I don't think it's going to be good for their plans to take over whatever, but they're going to have to come up with something new because they're going to lose I feel like at least a small force, and then that's going to create suspicion.
Do you think it's going to completely wreck their original plan? Like, are they going to have to completely do something else? Like, what do you think's going to happen?
I think they have to tweak it, but or escalate how fast it comes. You know, like they're going to have to do it now, kind of idea. But when they're not ready, which I mean, we kind of made the assumption that this whole plan was going to crash and burn at some point. So
yeah, well,
because plans never go correct in any of these books.
So, do you guys have any? So we have only about 200 more pages left. 250. Do you guys have any thoughts for how this book's gonna end?
Kelsier's gonna die. The Lord Ruler's gonna take his body. Lord Ruler's gonna come out to be known as the one dude. I can't remember his name now. But I mean, all my theories right there.
Okay. So yeah, you think it's gonna end with like a fight between Kelsier and the Lord Ruler?
I don't know about end, but I definitely think that's coming. And I think the Lord Ruler's gonna win.
What do you, Darkness? Do you think they're gonna get to that, or do you think something else is gonna end the book, and then they're gonna do that like next book? Or because remember, we do have 2 more books. It's not like our other 2 books where everything's gonna be over. This one.
I don't know what to expect, honestly. I mean, like, I feel like they're gonna reach that like moment, like that peak moment of like Lord Ruler appears, Master Ball moment. But things are definitely not gonna go the way they're supposed to. I'm hoping a pit situation.
You're hoping that they're gonna attack the pits like they planned?
No, I was hoping more like Kelsier gets sent back.
Oh, I see. You think he's gonna get like captured and sent back?
No, I wish though. I feel like they're just gonna like duke it out, honestly. Like Kelsier and the Lord Ruler. And Vin's gonna be pregnant. Anyway, we don't talk about that idea yet.
Excuse me?
Wait, you're saying Vin's gonna be pregnant by the end of this?
Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
And I mean, in my head, that'd be cool. So, imagine.
Can be a teen mom.
Yeah, she's not gonna know who the father is, and they're gonna call it Maury.
So yeah, do you guys have anything else to say, or should I tell you what chapters we're doing next?
Yeah, we're reading the rest of the book, right? That's why we're talking about the end of the book?
No, we're reading chapters 25 through 28, another 4 chapters.
Did you have that already loaded up?
Wow. I was ready.
You weren't even listening, you just...
I was listening!
We were coming up with theories, and you're not even listening to
I'm listening.
How dare.
But yeah, we only have 3 episodes left. We're going to do these 4 chapters on episode 8, and then, because you made me do an extra chapter, we didn't have enough for the 3 more episodes, so the last 2 episodes are going to be 80 pages instead of 60-ish pages each. Yeah. So,
and first off, I don't like that accusation that we made you do something, okay? Because if I wanted to make you do something, believe me, I would have read the whole book by now.
Gosh. So anyway, so we've got...
it's only 9 more hours, okay?
So we've got, chapters 25, 28, and then we'll have... after that, we're going to be doing chapters 29 to 33, and then the final one will be chapters 34 through to the epilogue. So it's only going to be 3 more, so we'll be done this by the start of June 4th.
Or I could be done literally in 9 hours.
No. Look forward to that, and thank you to everyone who is listening. We really appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.